God bless you, saints. Here is a simplified version of our study on the trail of the truth through the Gentile dispensation. I thought to bring it in a fun way so everyone can understand. Let's get into it. Our story starts from the encounter a certain group of Greeks had with Jesus and his disciples. In St. John chapter 12, verses 20 to 24, these Greeks had come to seek Jesus. In verse 21, it tells us that these Greeks saw Philip first and said, "Hey, sir, can we meet your master? We heard he is the Messiah." Philip said, "Give me a minute." Then he told Andrew, "Hey, Andrew, these folks want to see the master." When they got to Jesus, he answered them and said, "The hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except the corn of wheat fall into the ground, it abides alone, but if it dies, it brings forth much fruit." Those folks must have been confused. What did he just say? What Jesus was saying simply meant, you can choose to keep your wheat grains in the house or even eat them. But if you want to multiply them, you have to take them to the field and get them planted in the ground. The grain dies after planting, then it grows into many more wheat grains. But wait a minute. What did Jesus mean by corn of wheat? Oh, was he referring to himself? Yeah, he must have been talking about how he was going to be killed, how he will rise up the third day, and how many more people will believe him because he was able to raise himself up from the dead. But why was he telling those Greeks about his death? Could he have been saying more? Those Greeks were Gentiles, right? So here's what it is. While the corn of wheat referred to Jesus, it also represents the Christian church. Over a period of approximately 2,000 years, the Christian church, with Gentiles in the majority, will be planted, it will die, and then bring forth much fruit just like the corn of wheat. Fast forward to some years after Jesus was taken up into heaven, the Apostle Paul started to preach to mostly Gentiles. Why did this happen? In Acts chapter 13, the Jews started rejecting the gospel because they were envious of the progress of the gospel of Christ. So Paul and Barnabas turned to the Gentiles. That would be the beginning of 7 Gentile church ages over the next 2,000 years. By the 4th church age, popularly known as the Dark Ages, that would signify the death of the corn of wheat. There was very little knowledge of the gospel because most of the Christians had departed from the original teachings of the apostles and had mixed Christianity with idolatry. But that was not the end of the corn of wheat. Though the corn of wheat died in the 4th church age, it was necessary for it to die so it can bring forth much fruit. The 5th church age started what was called the Reformation. Led by a clergy called Martin Luther, life will start to come back into the Christian church, and by the final church age or harvest time, we expect to see the same wheat that was planted come back again with much fruit. That is all we covered in part 1 of our study. In part 2, we will give a summary of the times and the seasons. We will look at the conversation Jesus had with his disciple just when he was about to be taken up into heaven. They wanted to know if he will kick out the Romans and become king. But he gave a different answer. Let's talk about that in our next video. Thanks for watching.